Hello and welcome to Mentors Coaching FM, the show that helps you tame the business beast and build a marketing machine so that you can focus on helping your clients get the transformation you promise. I'm Gail Seymour, founder of Mentors Coaching, the results-oriented growth platform where learning providers of all stripes can create and deliver courses and programs that handle scheduling, payments and delivery all in one place with no monthly fee. Just a simple, low commission structure that means if you don't earn, you don't pay. Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to Mentors Coaching FM. I have a wonderful treat for you today. Somebody who's going to talk to us about something that many people fear more than death. And so that's definitely a subject that I think we want to hear about. So I have with me Brenden Kumarasamy, who is a video and YouTube channel, a YouTuber, I suppose we would say. He's the founder of Mastertalk, and he helps people with the art of public speaking. So no way that I'm going to feel unconscious or self-conscious today, is there? Actually, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to get some tips for all of us, honest. So, Brenden, before we get into anything else, would you like to share with us, who you are, what you do, and how you got there? Give us a little bit of your story so that we get to know you a bit better first.
Absolutely, Gail. What a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for having me. So for me, the story started in college. I went to business school, and I had zero aspirations to be a communication professional. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I studied to be an accountant, funny enough. That's what my bachelor's degree is in. And I did these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, Gail, but for nerds. So other guys my age are playing footy or rugby or cricket or basketball. I wasn't one of those guys. I did presentations competitively. That's how I learned how to speak. But then as I got older, Gail, I started coaching a lot of the students in those programs to help them win competitions. And I accidentally, big word on accent, by the way, developed a gift on how to help others communicate their messages more effectively. And that's what initially led to the YouTube channel Mastertalk, because I felt this information wasn't really out there for free. So I started making videos, and then a few years after that, it turned into a behemoth that I never would have expected it to.
Awesome. And so, without any preamble, if you like, what is the biggest problem that you see with people when it comes to public speaking? What's the biggest block?
For sure. I would say for me, Gail, the biggest problem that I see with communication is exactly what you brought up at the beginning of this conversation. The emphasis, the constant re-emphasis of the fear of communication. Well, if we want to get better at speaking, last thing we want to do is to keep talking about the fear that it's associated with. So for me, and this is something that I feel our culture gets wrong, that's why my perspective has always been a very different question, which is, how would your life change if you were an exceptional communicator? We dream about our businesses, our coaching practices, our careers, our relationships, our health. When was the last time we dreamed about our communication skills? And the answer to that question, Gail, as is noted through your laugh, is never. And nobody dreams about their communication skills. So I would encourage us to start there. There's obviously a bunch of other tactics I'll share today on how to effectively practice every day. But the big piece is find a motivation that's so enthralling that allows you to say, you know what, even with the fear, even with the struggle, I'll still make it work in the same way I did with my coaching practice.
Excellent. So I'm laughing because when you said dream about communication, I know you want to get us over the fear, but I think if most of us dream about communicating, dream's not the right word. it's because it still comes back to that, it's the whole, have I left a part of my clothing off. It's that whole, it's something, have I got spinach in my teeth, or, these sorts of things. Because I don't know what it is. Where do you think this sense of fear of speaking, and not just of speaking in general, because we tend not to be afraid to speak to individuals. What is it about crowds that makes us freeze?
For sure, Gail. So there's two parts to that. One part is exactly what you mentioned, which is super good, is the idea that, hey, Brenden, if you just say to dream about your communication skills, it might not always work. So here's a way for us to think about this, because I fundamentally believe in this idea that communication is an accelerant of dreams, because it affects every area of our life. It's the way that we talk to our family. It's the way that we raise our children. It's the way that we make new friends. It's the way that we grow our business. It's the way that we make the waiter feel at a restaurant that they actually matter. It's about leading a more fulfilling life. That's one part of that. The other part to communication mastery and finding that motivation is just asking yourself three questions. What do we want in life? Like, what do we desire? Whether it's a big car, a fancy watch, a bigger coaching practice, impacting more lives, changing the world, what is it that we want? Then the second question, Gail, is who's already done that? Usually somebody who's already accomplished the goal that we have. So who is that person? But the third question that we never think to ask ourselves is what kind of communicator is that person? The person who has achieved our dreams, what type of communicator are they? And that's what inspires us to get better. So let's take Oprah Winfrey. When we think about the impact she's created in the world, sure, people look at that, but they don't look at how great of a communicator she is. And that's the gap. That's what motivates us to go, well, if I want to be like Oprah one day, or insert X person here, it doesn't matter who it is, we need to start working on our communication. Last piece is your question around where does the fear of communication come from? If you had asked me this question 3 years ago, Gail, I probably would have said San Diego or Los Angeles or London. Now I got a better answer. Here's what I'll say. It makes sense if you think about it. Where do the formal presentations of our life begin? Like, where do we start giving formal presentations in our life? And the answer for all of us, whether you live in the UK, Canada, Australia, it doesn't really matter. The answer is the same, and it is the education system. That's where we learn how to speak, whether it's elementary school or high school. But all of those presentation skills have three fundamental problems. Number one, all those presentations are mandatory, Gail. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, hey, you want to get breakfast and present all day? Nobody says that. So it's mandatory. You have to do it. So you're already off to a bad start. Number two, you never get to present something you're passionate about in school. So it's never, hey, Gail, what are you passionate about? Mentorship, leadership, coaching, impact. No, you got to talk about Shakespeare and poetry. Then after you're done that, you have to talk about the history of Missouri. And you're looking at them and going, I don't live in Missouri. Why do I have to do that? So that's number two. And then finally, number three, the worst of all, by the way, I have no idea why you put kids through this, is that every presentation is tied to a bloody punishment. If you don't do a great job, not only do you not get a pat on the back, you get a slap in the head. You lose like 20% of your grade. So what's the conclusion? With every presentation is mandatory, never tied to something we're passionate about, and is tied to a punishment, we grow up believing that communication is a chore, so it becomes one, and nobody wants to get better at doing the dishes.
That makes so much sense, because I actually come from, I'm a ghostwriter, and so I help people with writing. And it's a very similar thing. I always talk about people hate editing and all the rest of it. And it's because it's the fear of the red pen. And that again comes from the educational system and that whole being graded and corrected. So yeah, it does make perfect sense. Now, having established what some of the problems are, how do we get over this? What are the baby steps to get started and to start to release the fear and move into competence?
Absolutely, Gail. And it's the same process as any other skill. It's just no one has really defined those steps, so let me be the person to do it. Communication is like juggling 18 balls at the same time. One of those balls is eye contact, one of them is smiling, one of them is body language, one of them is storytelling. So if we try and juggle all 18, of course they'll all fall to the floor. That's why there's no progress whenever you work on it. So what does the question now become? What are the 3 easiest balls to juggle? Because if we know how to juggle those, everything else becomes easy. So now the next question is, what are those balls? Let's start with number 1. Number 1 is the random word exercise. Pick a random word like lip balm, like Toyota, like car, like sofa, and create random presentations on the spot for 60 seconds. Why should you do this every day? 2 reasons. 1, it helps you deal with uncertainty. Life is filled with uncertainty, Gail. Example, you meet somebody new at a coffee shop. You have no clue how the conversation is going to go, like literally zero. What questions are they going to ask? What are they going to say? You have no clue. In the same way, as a coach or as a consultant, you're going to be meeting people at networking events all the time, and you have no idea. Some of them could be your ideal clients. So you have to be able to communicate. The second reason why this is important is because if you can make sense out of nonsense, you can make sense out of anything. That's what I tell my clients all the time, Gail. And the reason is because if you talk about avocados for 30 seconds, it's really easy to close somebody on a strategy call because you're not changing your practice every single day. That's number 1. And the best way to integrate this is with your children if you have any. So do this with your kids when you're picking them up from school, do this with your friends. Obviously you got a coach, it's better, but figure out what works for you. That's exercise number 1. Exercise number 2 is the question drill. We get asked questions all the time in our life, Gail. At school, at work, on a sales call, in a workshop that we deliver as coaches, but most of us are reactive to those questions. We're not proactive. And the example that I gave earlier in today's conversation was when I started guesting on podcasts 3.5 years ago, and I sucked. I remember some guy asked me, hey, where does the fear of communication come from? And I look at the guy and I'm like, London, I have no idea. So I wasn't ready, right? I wasn't prepared. So what did I do? Every single day, Gail, for 5 minutes, I answered one question that I thought the world would ask me about my expertise. And that's how I got better. But if you do one question a day for a year, Gail, you'll have 365 questions about your business. You'll be unbeatable in your field and you'll crush on podcasts, which is number 2. And number 3 is so simple, Gail, nobody does it. Make a list of all your clients and ask yourself a simple question. When was the last time you sent them a video message to wish them a happy holiday, to show how grateful you are for them? Gail, I love your podcast. It's so great to see the work that you're doing, and I really appreciate it. I hope you're having a wonderful day and wishing your family a wonderful holiday season. Easy. That's it. But it's so simple, nobody does it. That's my easy 3s.
Awesome. Now, would you, because I like live video, have to be honest. One of the reasons I like live video is because, you put yourself out there and it doesn't matter what goes wrong. You can't stop and edit. And I find if you're recording something beforehand, it could take 3 hours to record 5 minutes. Whereas if you literally just hit that live button, it just makes such a huge difference. Now, for somebody who maybe is reluctant to go live, what advice would you have for them again to just get over that little hump?
Absolutely, Gail. So I see this more from a positive, because I actually never go live personally. So I like it. I think it's a good format. Unless I'm on a live stream and I'm being interviewed on a live stream. That's the only exception. Here's what I would say. Do what's comfortable for you and that forces you into action. Let me give you an example. Why do I start with the video messages, Gail? Why don't I say post on social media tomorrow? The reason is because the video messages teaches us an important lesson. It teaches us what communication is for. Because a lot of us think communication is a chore. But when you send a video message to your client, because you're famous to your clients, whether the people listening to this podcast believe me or not, even if you got 7 clients, provided you do good work, obviously, they see you as their idol. They see you as their hero. That's why they're investing in your coaching service. So if you're sending them a video message on their birthday, you make 50 mistakes in your speaking, guess what? They don't care because you're the only person that day who sent them a video message on their birthday. So it means a lot to them. So when they start replying like, "Oh my God, Gail, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This means a lot to me." You go, "Oh, like I don't need to start a podcast. I just need to send 50 of these video messages to all my clients." And then what also happens is 10% of the time you get new referral business for doing nothing besides just telling people that you care about them. It's very simple. It's literally the most easiest business strategy that's exploded my business. So that's one piece. The other piece, going back to the positive side, which is my angle, is communication's like a domino effect. So when one of those dominoes fall, all of the others follow. So it becomes a multiplier effect. So what do I mean by this? What I mean is when you get better on video, like sending private videos just to your clients, you start to see improvement. You go, "I'm really good at this. Okay, let me start posting on social with recorded videos. Okay, let me do that." And then you get really good and you go, "I could do a podcast." And then you do your first one, it sucked. But then your 10th one, you're like, "Oh, this is good." So it's a build up over time. And that's the way that I like teaching communication.
Excellent. I probably just head first straight in.
That's because you're a legend, Gail.
I'm really not. Just I think I subscribe to the feel the fear and do it anyway. And sometimes it's only afterwards that I tend to stop and think, did I really? but I do believe in leaping before looking sometimes. So I'm going to have two questions for you before as we start to wrap up, because I want to give you a chance to really lead the conversation in the direction that you want to take it more. And so if somebody wants help with getting comfortable with the public speaking and, if they want to take the conversation further and they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Absolutely, Gail. So 2 ways to keep in touch. The first one is definitely the YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and type Mastertalk in one word, and you'll have access to hundreds of free videos on how to communicate ideas effectively. And the second way to keep in touch is to attend one of my live communication workshops. And it's okay if you're introverted, you can turn off your camera and just listen in. But these are where you get to see me do these tips live on a Zoom, and they're free also. So if you want to jump in on those live trainings, just go to rockstarcommunicator.com.
Excellent. And I will make sure we have the links for that in the show notes as well. And so handing over to you, what are the things that you really want to tell people and to talk about that I didn't ask you?
For sure, Gail. Here's what I'll say. The most important tip, Gail, is that the best way to speak is to speak. The biggest mistake everyone listening to this podcast is making is in their mind they're saying this, "Wow, Gail brought on such a handsome Indian guy talking about communication tips. This is great." But you know what the problem is, Gail? The problem is that they don't do them. They don't do the random word exercise. They don't do the question drill. They don't do the video messages. So I encourage you to book 15 minutes in your calendar every single day to do all three, because the best way to speak is to speak. I know that sounds like a crazy statement, but it's just the truth. So that means in that 15 minutes that you have, the random word exercise literally takes 60 seconds to do it once. So if you do it 5 times a day, that's 5 minutes. And if you do that 5 minutes a day for a month, you'll already have done the random word exercise 150 times, which is wild. So do that. The second exercise, the question drill, takes 5 minutes to answer one question. Just take a bunch of questions from your audience, from your ideal clients, and just answer one of them every day so that you're bulletproof on sales calls and strategy calls. It'll be so easy for you to convert people into your offer. And then the third question, or exercise rather, just open your Facebook, see whose birthday it is, and just send 3 video messages. It literally takes, and they're like 20-second video messages on Facebook. You can't even go on over 20. And as long as you implement our rule, which is you're not allowed to retake the video, you'll be done all 3 exercises in 15 minutes. And if you just do that every day for 30 days, you'll separate yourself from everyone else. And that's why my last tip of the day which is the most important, is if you communicate 20% better than your competition, you will stand out 100% of the time. So it's not about doing the amazing, flashy thing. It's just about doing these 3 exercises longer than anyone else who's listening to this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brenden. I'm going to ask you to come back when we have a panel session, because we're going to have some sessions with 3 or 4 guests talking about subjects, and I'd really love to bring you back into that, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Just send me more details and we'll figure it out.
Excellent.